one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Todd, if you could lead us in the invitation.
Sure. Let's bow our heads in prayer, please. Our Heavenly Father, Lord, we again come before you tonight, Lord, in reverence. We come to you asking for peace and clarity. Lord, we realize that our mistakes are small in your eyes. The impacts of those, Heavenly Father, we do ask for direction and guidance on how to work through situations. Lord, we ask that you'll be with this council here tonight, that you'll give them the guidance and the wisdom that they need in order to make the decisions that are in the best interest of not only this community, Lord, but in your eyes. We ask all this in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. The first part of our meeting is the special presentations, and I'd like to call up Spot Still, Cole Watts, and Anthony Ball. Oh, big Spot. The hat, too. Come on. Well, I feel really proud to introduce these three gentlemen who the young men placed first in the Skills USA Masonry competition, which is a very big highly accolade to what you guys have done. But behind every great student is a great teacher right here. And I know this man is great at what he does. So, one, we would like to present let me kind of get in the middle of you guys here.
Let me get on this side, so we won't be on one side.
All right, there we go. There we go. This is a certificate of recognition from the town of Tazewell for what these gentlemen have accomplished, and we're very proud of you. And also, I'll give that to you.
All right.
We also have some town of Tazewell goodies. I know one of you is from Richlands, but we won't call you. It's all right. But we'd like to give you that. We give you, give yours, and pick one first. I give yours last but not least. Thank you guys for everything you've done. And congratulations.
First of all, thank you for doing this tonight, but I want to say something about these two guys and about the town of Tazewell and Mr. Todd Day and council members. These young men went to the contest, and they was kind of getting ready for the contest and sitting around and things like that. Everybody else was kind of getting excited, okay? These two guys here, they're just sitting over there, just calm as cucumbers. This one, he's spinning his trail, and he's just sitting there looking around like this. But I said that to say this. It's this partnership that we have with you guys, okay? These guys have been under real work experience, life experience. They've been under pressure, okay? Working on the sidewalk and things like that. Of course, the guys work for me. But I do attribute a lot of this because they won this thing. Being calm, handling herself, they was never under no pressure, never. I attribute that to what we've been doing here as a partnership with you guys, working on sidewalks and working with you guys. I really do. And I want to say, Todd, he's been very good to work with me through this. This has been a great partnership, and I hope it continues. These two guys, I got to tell this story on. At the end of the competition, when they was giving out the awards, okay? They started at 10th and went down, okay? They got down to the third one. Well, they was getting kind of itchy, hadn't called their number yet. So they called number 2, and Cole walks over to me. He's about here from the door, and he says, "Still, they ain't called our name yet." And I said, "Well, Cole, it's like this. You either won or you lost." By the time I said lost, they called out their numbers, and of course, they went up to get the presentations. But anyway, again, I appreciate it. You guys want to say anything? I didn't think but we do appreciate it, and hope we can continue to work through partnerships. Anything the vocational school can do for you guys, I hope we can make it happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is our proclamation for Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the town of Tazewell, Virginia is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Tazewell. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the location where people are the greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires killed 2,630 people in the United States in 2017, according to the National Fire Prevention Association. And fire departments in the United States responded to 357,000 home fires. And whereas the majority of U.S. fire deaths, 4 out of 5, occur at home each year. And whereas the fire death rate per 1,000 home fires reported to U.S. fire departments was 4% higher in 2017 than in the 1980s. And whereas when the smoke alarm sounds, residents may have less than 2 minutes to escape to safety. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas residents should make a home escape plan, drawing a map of each level of the home, showing all doors and windows. And whereas residents should practice the home fire escape plan with everyone in the household, including visitors. And whereas residents should practice the home fire escape drill at least twice a year during the day and at night. And whereas residents should teach children to escape on their own in case adults can't help them. And whereas residents should make sure everyone in the home knows how to call 911 or the local emergency number from a cell phone or a neighbor's phone. And whereas residents should practice using different ways out. And whereas residents in real emergencies should get low and go under the smoke to get out quickly. And whereas residents should get out and stay out, never going back inside the home for people, pets, or things. And whereas residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take action to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2019 Fire Prevention Week theme, Not Every Hero Wears a Cape, plan and practice your escape, effectively serves to remind us that we need to take personal steps to increase our safety from fire. Therefore, I, Michael F. Hoops, Mayor of the town of Tazewell, do hereby proclaim October 6th through 12th, 2019 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this town. And I urge all the people of the town of Tazewell to be aware of their surroundings, look for available ways out in the event of a fire or other emergency, respond when the smoke alarm sounds by exiting the building immediately, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts the town of Tazewell's fire and emergency services during Fire Prevention Week 2019, adopted this 8th day of October 2019.
All right. Jason? Yes, sir. Yeah, continue here, man. Yes, sir. I think y'all come up front and get a picture, but, nah. You can introduce them all too, maybe we can speak, they all look excited.
First is firefighter Trevor Dean, firefighter Brandon Ray, Lieutenant Jason Kinsey, firefighter Daniel McClain. Throughout the week, we're going to the area schools in the town, practicing fire prevention, instructing children on what to do in case of a fire and the correct way to call 911 and how to properly report an emergency.
Excellent. Very good, Captain. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Next is our proclamation for Census 2020. And I've lost the crowd.
Oh my God.
Mayoral Proclamation Census 2020 Kickoff Week. Whereas the United States of America has performed a nationwide census every 10 years since 1790, with the last census being in 2010, and whereas an accurate census is essential for the allocation of representatives to serve in the legislative bodies of the U.S. House of Representatives, the Virginia State Legislature, and within the town of Tazewell, Virginia. And whereas accurate census information is critical to planning for future growth, development, and the social needs of the town of Tazewell, Virginia. And whereas the more informed that residents become about the 2020 census operations, the better their understanding of the census process becomes, thus increasing their willingness to participate in the 2020 census. And whereas the Census Bureau is not permitted to publicly release responses furnished by any individual or on behalf of an individual, or release information to other governmental agencies, including the Internal Revenue Service, the Immigration and Naturalization Service, law enforcement agencies, or welfare agencies. In addition, per the Federal Cybersecurity Enhancement Act of 2015, census data is protected from cybersecurity risks through screening of the systems that transmit this data. And whereas a complete count committee will be selected to advise and assist the town of Tazewell, Virginia in obtaining the most accurate and complete population count for Census 2020 by increasing the number of town responses through a focused, structured, neighbor-to-neighborhood program. Therefore, be it hereby resolved that I, Michael F. Hoops, Mayor, Town of Tazewell, do hereby proclaim the week of October 7th through 11th, 2019 to be designated 2020 Census Kickoff Week, adopted this 8th day of October 2019. Another fun one. So next is the approval of the minutes from last council work session. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Approval of minutes, please. Next, the approval of financial statement and financial support or report for September 2019. Can I get a motion for approval? So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries forward. Next is committee and conference updates. Councilmember Brooks, will you give us an update on the Planning Commission?
Sure. We met yesterday, and the discussion revolved around the change of location of Donut Diva from its current location to the Wingo building at Farmview Road. That's not exactly resolved, but it sounds like it's probably really going to happen, which is interesting, an interesting development. And the majority of the discussion involved the refining the definition of our accommodation rules in the town. The difference between a B&B and a hotel or a tourist home and a boarding house. That's all been presented to council as a draft, which we'll have to figure out and then set a schedule for a public hearing on that matter. But that was the Planning Commission meeting.
Well, thank you very much. So any unfinished business, Manager Dave, the EMS discussion?
Yeah, I want to talk to council just a little bit, and I know that this EMS area is kind of a sensitive issue and it's been going on for quite some time. And we're experiencing a lot of changes within EMS and over the next couple of months, I didn't say 4 or 5 months, but we're going to be evaluating what we're doing in order to bring back our recommendations to town council. I can tell you that the recommendation that will come from me is going to be a little tough one to swallow for everybody if the numbers don't change. But just want to talk to council just a little bit about it and kind of refresh your memory. Go back a while back. We picked up transports a number of months ago in order to try to offset the bleeding in EMS, the deficit that we experience every year in EMS. The budgeted revenue that's in your budget this year is $665,000 in your rescue squad. The budgeted expense is $717,000. So right off the bat, we understood, and have always understood, that we're operating a program that loses money. We also understand it's a valuable asset to the area, and I know that there's all kinds of ways to offset that. The billing to date, since July 1st, the actual amounts that we've been able to bill out is $564,000 since July 1st. We billed that out. So if you multiply that times 4, it's like the quarters, but if you multiply it times 4, we're only 3 months in, so that gives you $2.2 million of revenue. And typically speaking, billing in Southwest Virginia is about 30%. So we collect about 30% in Southwest Virginia. Keep that in mind, and it's because of the Asian population. That comes out to about what's budgeted anyway, around 700,000 somewhere. I don't have a calculator in front of me, but the amount collected since July the 1st is $187,653. So if you multiply that out, it comes out to about $750,000 a year. So the revenues based on what we've done in the first quarter is going to exceed the budget number, but not anywhere near enough to offset the expense that we're experiencing. And that expense is because, you'll recall, we put on the extra transport division, but the hospital also reached out to us and was in desperation because of not being able to transport, not having transports. So we talked about this a couple of months ago, but we added another crew on in order to work with the hospital. And I can tell you right now, in talking with the hospital, they're very pleased with the service. But at the rate we're going, if we keep going, we're going to be about $1.1 million in expense. And the expected expense budgeted was budgeted at $717. So that's a little more than I can handle budget-wise. I can't offset that at the end of the year. I can't. So now our ability to collect revenues, we're working with Brad in his office to try to reduce expenses, come up with some form documents that we can send out. We're not using collection, we talked about that before. Using collections in this situation, the court fees on those are, I think Dr. Catron helped me out here, but they kind of override. So we're trying to use good financial decisions, but I can tell you that if we don't find a way to collect on that $564,000 that we've already billed out, and this is Medicaid, Medicare, uninsured, and insured. They're your 4 categories. And
So when you say you build,
yeah,
so you build not to uninsured, but to Medicaid, Medicare, and
uninsured and insured. All 4 categories, $564,000.
so if you pull out the uninsured, I'd be curious to see what those numbers are.
I can get it to you, I just don't have to find it.
Because that might be, is that what's dropping it to 30%? Is there a lot of uninsured?
Well, just mathematically, historically, our billing, when we bill, it's just always been an average of 30%.
I'm just curious, there's a reimbursement rate, right? So if you charge X hours for different types of pickups and services, there's a rate based on each insurance company what the allowable amount is.
For example, if you bill $100 for Medicare, what's it typically pay?
Depending on the procedure code, I'm sure, but still, it can't be 30%, there's no way. It has to be somewhere in the 60 to 70%. So I'm wondering if that 30% is actually Like, if you-
Uninsured problem.
Uninsured.
Well, keep in mind, the key again, I emphasize Southwest Virginia, so it probably is, you're probably right. And I can get that information, I just don't have it in front of me.
Because the rates are the same across the Commonwealth. They don't pay us less than they pay in anything else anywhere, so I don't know why they would do it in that healthcare.
Well, as I stated, the real numbers are 187, 653 and some change collected. So if you multiply that times, it's just, well, I think we will exceed the budgeted revenue, but not enough to help the expense. So the expense is what's going to hurt me pretty bad. So we've been meeting basically every day. We're changing some tactics around. We're trying to defy the normal rules of collecting, but not hurt our citizens who can't pay.
When we do transports, are those reimbursed do we get all that, or is that 30% as well?
A lot of that's billed out. Well, I'm just saying the average in all of them is 30%.
I mean,
So are you billing electronically? So you,
That 30% is an average, counting your self-pay that doesn't,
but when you do the transports, do all those transports have insurance, or that some of those self-pay as well?
there's a few self-pay. I mean, you can't pick and choose from the hospital.
We can get, I don't have it in front of me. But
I'm
we
just curious
do.
of what making sure that the billing is the best it can be and the collection rate from because that's where you're going to get your greatest money. Chasing down the uninsured is.
I can tell you that Richlands is losing, the county is
But
losing.
I get that. We knew we were.
Yeah.
None of our services are money makers, right?
Right. No,
I mean, Public Works,
nothing we
does
do.
Public Works make you any money?
No.
Does the police department make you any money?
Sounds familiar, by the way.
I know, this is what you said to us, right?
It's just, I'm just telling you, historically, we ran about a $200,000 deficit. Half of that, we offered to the county. Well, we got 50% of the half back from the county. Well, this is more than double. This is targeted right now to devastate my budget.
Right.
All right, so I'm not going to wait until halfway through the fiscal year to make a recommendation to cancel. I mean, I don't have much of a choice as manager to make a recommendation based on the facts, and in the next month or two, they're either going to be good or it's going to be nasty. So, I mean, it is what it is. I just want to let council know that it's out there, we're working on it, we're doing everything we can, hours and hours a day, Robin, Leanne, everybody, we're doing everything we can. That's all I have.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished miscellaneous business? I didn't see any going through. So we'll move on to new business, the first responder grant application. Todd?
Okay, every time we have a department head that takes the initiative to find better ways to better the town, or go out and look for grants or opportunities, I like to put them front and center and recognize them, and I've always done that. And, I just want to say thank you to Jason, for the work he's done. And over the last month or so, and he just raised $64,000, more than $64,000 in a grant. And I don't know how he did it. Matter of fact, Jason, why don't you just tell him what you did? I want you to say thank you to him.
The grant was through Gary Sinise First Responders Foundation. I reached out to them, submitted the application, and they awarded us $64,040 for 20 sets of the complete turnout gear.
Great. Good job. Thank you. That's what it's all about. That helps offset what I just said in EMS. The objective at the end of the year is we have, we've got a $7 million budget and 3 enterprise funds. But it's for those to equally close out in black. One line item might be red or a dozen, but the idea is to close the year out in black.
So if Jason applies for 5 more and gets them, we could be set.
We're working on
days. Captain Dan.
So thanks a lot, Jason. That means a lot for people going out and taking care of things. We really do appreciate it. Todd, next we have the Lester Development Corporation ground lease agreement.
Yes, if you'll recall, a couple of years ago, we uncovered an issue I wish I could cover back up, but no good deed goes unpunished, but the basketball courts that were at Lincolnshire have always been on private property. We never owned that property, but due to the desire to expand and do different things, I felt it would be in the best interest of the town to try to clean that up. And it got cleaned up. So we have a lease on it, and it was costing us $200 a month just for the parking lot alone. And, there's aggressive ways that we can bypass that, but at the time, council felt it would be best to just continue the lease. Well, the lease is going up by $10 a month. Then next year, an additional $5, and it's increasing every year, so it's a continuously growing problem. But I just want council needs to approve that. I don't like it any at all. But it averaged 455 kids a weekend at the end of the season. So there was more parking problems than you could shake a stick at. So the police department would send me pictures of cars, and they'd ask me, what do I do? And I said, I don't know, I'm fishing right now, or I'm doing something. But what a good problem to have, it was an outstanding problem to have. Look at all those kids out there enjoying the lake. So just need council's approval to continue that agreement.
But can I get a motion to continue the Lester Development Corporation ground lease agreement?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
Is there any way we can buy that park?
I'm offered to buy it, and they're not willing to sell it. And it's because it's an attractive entrance to their property that's for sale. But I've done everything, but yeah, I've offered to buy it.
Are we looking at options for parking in other areas?
Yeah, we've got some plans and some drawings for park expansion and
Right.
the tailwaters coming out of the dam, covering that, piping it and covering it, which would add a wealth of parking. There's all kinds of plans, but the bottom.
This is what we have right now.
It's somebody asked me the other day, don't you see them potholes going out of Fincastle? And I said, no. The money is just, it's got a limit to it. And so,
Yeah.
that's all I've got.
Any more?
I just suggest we continue looking at alternatives if they come down the pike or something comes along.
Yeah.
So all in favor of continuing the lease? Aye. All opposed? Okay, we'll move forward with the lease. Next is a rural business development grant extension.
We were awarded a grant from USDA a couple years ago in an amount of, well, it was right at $75,000. We matched it for a total of 80. We matched it at 5,000 for a total of 80.
That's not
We've yet to have anybody we've had one individual apply, but we've yet to be able to get a penny of that out. And USDA assures us that it's normal, but I need council's approval to extend it for an additional year. All these federal and state agencies need your approval to give you free money. I've always found it interesting.
I'll make a motion to approve extending the term of the lease.
Second. And that's operated, by the way, by our IEDA.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? So carries forward. Next is the First Sentinel Bank loan. Ms. Reagan?
As you all know, we are in the process of doing a sewer plant upgrade. We have secured funding for that, but it doesn't start until 2020. So right now, we just need something to kind of bridge the gap while we're in the engineering process of it. I have spoke with First Sentinel. We can get a $900,000 line of credit / loan for a term of 24 months with 3.35% of tax-free rate. There would be a $500 loan fee. And myself, Todd, Mayor Hoops, and Vice Mayor Mullins are actually on another line of credit. And if that would be okay, if you all would approve this, we would go on this one as well.
So would this be utilized to do the studies that Thompson Lynn may have to do before they?
This is the same one y'all approved to move on. We're just bringing you the bank. First Sentinel Bank had the lowest interest rate. In order to avoid the GO or the revenue bond, which had a closing cost of $10,000, we're doing another LOC. It will be paid back in full at closing when we go to close with DEQ on that $10 million loan.
So can I get a motion to approve the line of credit with First Sentinel Bank?
So moved.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Leanne, move forward, please.
Thank you.
Next is the approval to use collection agency for delinquent utility billing.
So as the manager said, we've been speaking not only with Area MS about their collections, we've been trying to find ways that we can improve collections on all sorts of taxes that we collect on our water, or sewer, garbage. So I reached out to somebody that I had worked with the real estate taxes. It's a company called TACS, and that stands for Taxing Authority Consulting Services. So we are already using them for our real estate collection. They have done a fantastic job for me. I really would give them a good recommendation. But they actually will collect on utility billing also. So if you all would be interested in us using that service, if I could get a vote on that, I might be able to get the ball rolling on that.
What's that going to cost?
Okay. If that's approved, we would have to do like we did with real estate taxes, and there is an ordinance that we would have to do. It would be payment of administrative fees, attorney fees, and collection agency fees. We had to pass this with our taxes. It would be the exact same thing. It would be 20% in attorney fees, what the customer would pay.
So it doesn't cost us anything.
Right, the customer would.
What they do, they have a legislative fundraiser anyway, that they have the ability to tack on 20% for their fee of collecting.
So you get your full fee.
Oh, yeah.
They pay 20% extra.
Yes.
Plus,
All of our late fees, et cetera, et cetera.
It's basically through a Virginia code ordinance that allows the town, the individual councils, either county or board of supervisors, to adopt an ordinance that allows this type of collection activity to take place such that all of those administrative costs are then passed on to the delinquent before taxpayer now and utility user. So there's no cost to the town.
It's a win-win deal.
so what, do they get paid if they don't collect on anybody? Is there like
There may be like a research fee or something to find the person that we would have to pay.
But you've been satisfied with the way they did real estate?
Yes.
It increased the money that came in that was delinquent.
Well, we have ended up having some people that made payment agreements and they've paid it off like they should have. For those people that didn't, we have actually had sales on the courthouse steps and took care of that property and got it back on the tax books. So if you are interested.
I'll make a motion for you to proceed with that.
I'll second it.
Second, any discussion?
Yeah. I don't like it too good.
So you don't want us to collect our money?
Well, you gotta work with them, you know, these collectors like to come at your throat, is that, they come to your door and all that stuff.
Mostly, these are customers that have left us. They're no longer here. We don't have a way to get it from them.
Plus by law, we have to try to collect it for a certain length of time. It is way delayed, it is way delayed.
They know it.
It
Well,
is way delayed.
some people it's hard to make these payments each month, but you gotta give them a little leeway or on fixed income.
Well, I'm sure we've
These are
given
retired-
We do. These are real delinquent debts. These are not 4 or 5 months. These are things that we cannot collect on. I mean, that's.
Oh, well, that's.
We could go back 5 years to collect.
Okay, I'm just worried about, I care about the people that's on fixed income and sometimes they run into a rut spot. And, I mean, you gotta work with them.
And we do, we've got several, I got emails today, matter of fact, I mean, we got several individuals that are making payments to get caught up, several businesses that are making payments to get caught up. We work very diligently with them. We absolutely do.
So these are basically the ones that are not responding at all. They've
They
been
just
in
jump.
arrears for years.
Yeah, and they typically have a history of it, so if you look back at it, they did it somewhere, and they
And this is, I mean, as it is right now, we're getting zero.
yeah, we don't do that.
So if they collect anything, we get something.
That's it. That's it.
I also care about the people who are paying their taxes regularly, religiously, on time. And we're going to be charging them more if we don't do something about these people who are not.
Very true.
Well, and I'll bet if somebody contacts you all and says, oh, I have this tragic tale, you do work with them.
Yeah, and we even fall for the ones we know ain't true. I mean, we really do. We'll set them up on a program. We'll set them up on a program knowing that they won't follow through with it, but we do. We set them up and, I mean, it's real obvious when they call in. But yeah, we've got a multitude that we work with, and we will. We absolutely will.
So,
I think it.
so we've got a second. Can we get a vote? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
Right. One opposition. Motion carries. Thank you, Leanne.
Thank you.
Attorney Clyde, you're going to give us a review draft ordinance for special exemption permit.
Yes, you'll have in front of you, in each one of your packages, 3 different amendments to existing ordinances that the Planning Commission has recommended that I draft and present to the council for consideration. In large part, the genesis for all this stemmed from irregularities within our existing codes, specifically in our zoning ordinances. For years after the zoning ordinance was adopted back in 1967, there was a provision that you would see routinely for different uses, like let's say for a hospital or a gas station that would require a special use permit within a particular zone. And unfortunately, over the years, for whatever happened with regard to drafting, you would see a reference to a conditional use permit, or a special use permit, or a special exception permit. And unfortunately, within the definitional section of our zoning code, there was no definition for any of this. So the Planning Commission felt like it was something that needed to be addressed to have some more uniformity going forward. And so what you have before you specifically, you'll see with regard to different articles, Articles 1, 2, 4, and 7 with regard to all in zoning, everything from definitions within residential R1, B2, M1, also dealing with telecommunications, and antenna towers, all going through and clarifying and getting rid of the term conditional use and following the state code's recommendation of special exception. I know our agenda refers to this special exemption. It's actually special exception, including that as a definition for special exception, which is there. And then going through and changing all of the language that you see relative to what appears in not only definitions, but permits and certificates under zoning, and also the fee schedules for zoning. That's why you have 3 separate ordinances in front of you. These are all for council's consideration. It's one that the Planning Commission wants to go forward potentially next month for purpose after you've had a chance to review these as a council, determine whether or not there needs to be a public hearing for purposes of potentially, potential vote and adoption or review. But all of these consistently work and are interrelated to one another, stemming off of just special exception. And then there's some other definitions that change: bed and breakfast, as Ms. Brooks, Councilman Brooks referred to, bar, pit, public amusement, special exception also. All of these were missing from your existing definitions, so those need to be modified. And then they went through and specifically, then going with the one that's referred to as permits and certificates, that particular draft goes through and puts specific conditions on the issuance of a special exception permit, which is probably the meat of everything that's being considered now. Before, you had, let's say, put a gas station and a B1 with special use permit or special condition permit, but there was no way for the Planning Commission to have any type of guidelines for what would constitute a special use and what type of conditions. The draft that you have before you puts forth a criteria, a pecking order, a sort of a wish list or a demand list for anyone who comes before council requesting, before Planning Commission, requesting a special use, and then of course we have to go before council as well for approval. That particular ordinance draft deals with that and puts that in place, which has been needed for years within our
And this follows state guidelines.
Yes, it does. It's also, what that was taken from specifics. Yes, the Virginia code gives a lot of latitude, but then what the Planning Commission did was take sort of a hybrid from a draft or draw from other ordinances around the state that utilize special exception conditions and a criteria that they had used in the past, and the Planning Commission felt would be appropriate for this council to consider. So there's no vote tonight. You don't have to have me read it tonight. I'll let you pass with that. It's just for consideration to put on the agenda for next month for purposes of review and then possible public hearing.
Now,
I look forward to you reading all this.
Great.
if you're in a position, because I know when each of you leave, you'll probably never get a chance to look at that again. If you're, I encourage you to email me, ask questions, email Chris.
What's a bar of pit?
Read your definitions and
I just said, add the
You
definition.
move dirt from one location for storage to use in another location. I already read it.
Oh, thank you.
And part of the reason that's referred to is one of those uses within, I want to say within either R2 or R3.
That's a reading definition.
But there was no definition for it. It referred to it as a special use, and you go back and look for it, and it's not there. So that was the Planning Commission said, hey, we need this fixed. So they left it in there as a permitted use. Now you have a definition for it. Now you know. And thanks to Councilwoman Combs, who's read this.
Just part of it.
And I realize, and I'm sort of poking fun at Councilman Catherine, you all had not seen this before tonight, so you wouldn't know to even look. But that was one of the many holes in the cheese, so to speak, within the zoning code. So there was a couple more in there.
Next month for you to make a move on it. When it comes to the bar pit, we have E&S and those regulations you have to follow, but you're also responsible for that soil wherever you take it to.
No,
The only reason I read that is I didn't know what it was either.
and I'll be frankly honest, I've never seen it before until I started going through this. There's another good example of it. There's a there's a requirement for a special exception permit for public amusement. It references it as a use, but there's no definition of public amusement within the code. So that was another example, in addition to bar pit, that was added. And special exception, of course, is in there as well. You know, basically with the planning commission's direction and sort of definition for that.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I'm sure we're all looking forward to going home and reading this. Next, the good old bucket truck discussion.
Yeah, you know, we build a budget, our budget doesn't have a big slush fund in it, or you don't see a line item in there, we've got 6 digits in it for things, the unknown that happens, and this is just another reason to strengthen our fiduciary duty and responsibility to collect due taxes. But we got a bucket truck that we use all the time for banners, just everything from A to Z. And 2 years ago, that bucket truck has to be inspected every year. And I'm not talking about the chassis, I'm not talking about the frame, I'm talking about the bucket itself. But 2 years ago, I spent $14,000 on that bucket truck. And when it left here, it was working perfect. But they just find stuff that needs to be replaced on that. Which there's no way you can look at it and say, oh no, we're not going to do that. So we spent it, but we sent it down this year to be inspected, and they actually shut it down. The boom on it was really, had a lot of play in it anyway. The boom's rusted out on it, so they actually disabled it, and so I'm out of the bucket truck. We can still use it, the truck itself, we just got to take the bucket off of it. But I need to go get another one. So, you know, you can convert that thing to a dump truck, flat bed. It's just, you just got to change what's on it. So we'll utilize the truck. So
You put a ladder on it?
yeah, we've been doing that with a bucket truck. I mean, with a garbage truck, by the way. So. But I don't have any choice but to go out and try to find something. So I just want to let council know I'm not going to buy what we can. I'm going to buy what we need. And I've got
a grant for that.
Well, if you can find me one, I appreciate it. You know, we picked up a street sweeper the other day, but I don't have time to wait on this deal. I mean, this is, so I just want to let council know I'm probably hovering around the $50,000 area. And I will adjust it in the budget once we get something. I'll find it into the budget amendment somewhere along the line. Hands kind of tied there.
Christmas lights gotta go up.
I know, and I've got Christmas obligations on the 15th of this month, actually. I need that bucket truck. Doesn't look good.
Well, thank you. So next, the train station rental discussion.
Yeah, I just want to briefly touch on the train station. Our contractual obligation on the train station for the county is that they can rent the meeting area out. And they also collect the revenues from that meeting area. But there's some questions about the liability of the meeting area. So if it's destroyed, it's kind of a lot different than the American Legion Hall. So the American Legion Hall, we got some sheetrock walls and but the train station's got some very, very, very valuable pieces in it. So I just want to let you know that the county is working on that, and they're going to set a really aggressive down payment. So if you want to rent it, you can rent it to use. I think they're also going to look at the type of rentals that they accept in it, but you'll also have a very aggressive down payment. I don't know what that's going to be yet. You get it back if you don't destroy it, but it does. It's got a lot of artifacts in that building that have a huge historical value. And actually, if I'd almost say don't do it, but we'll see how it goes. I'm just letting you know that it's going to be different than the American Legion Hall. Where the American Legion Hall, I think it's what, $50 down payment, or what is the down payment on the American Legion Hall?
$50 rental.
Yeah, so-
Sorry, deposit and $75 rental.
Yeah, so it's $50, and for $50, we can go over there with some spackle or paint and fix damage that takes place. But that train station is not gonna be like that. So just want to let you know it's out there, so if you hear any chatter about why the train station's got a higher security deposit down there.
Is the chamber still going to be the renter?
So far.
Anything else on the train station?
No, that's it.
Okay, so any new miscellaneous business? I did see where the Toxic Manor is open. That's pretty exciting. Hopefully that's bringing some people in.
Heard they had 160 on Saturday.
Wow.
They had to turn people away.
Wow.
Another good problem to have. And I was also going through here and I seen something posted on Facebook about one of our officers. If I can take a second to read that. This was posted on the Tazewell, Virginia Police Department's Facebook page. And it says, we would like to give a big shout out to Officer Joe Stevenson. This was sent to in by a citizen to our department. It says, if every officer had the same heart and mentality as Officer Joe Stevenson, I believe folks would support the system more. I have not dealt with law enforcement a lot in my life, but there have been some who seem to really have an authority complex, and that gives people bad vibes in my opinion. I recently met Officer Stevenson as the resource officer, and I believe other officers need to take tips from that man on how to treat civilians. He was nice and didn't give me that I'm better than you because I've got a badge vibe. Maybe he could train the rookies. Like I said, all officers need to act like him. That's a very good accolade for one of our officers, and we just want to recognize that.
I can tell you, all of our officers are professional. They run into negative situations, but as far as I'm concerned, every one of them are very outstanding officers and carry themselves very well. Can you find faults? You don't have to look for a local government to find that, so people thrive on trying to do that, but very well said.
Okay, now we're in the public comment section. We have one person signed up, Pat Martin. You could come up, please. State your name and address, if you could, please.
Yes, my name is Patricia T. Martin, and I live in 1939 Fincastle Turnpike. We've lived in the town about 50 years. This is my second time speaking to the council, same subject. My husband went out to take the garbage on Thursday, and an officer was taking down our political candidate signs. Now, she was very nice. She said, "Do you want these signs?" And he said, "They wouldn't be in my yard if I didn't." And she gave him the signs. I don't know the history of this ordinance. Maybe you all do, and maybe it passed last month. I don't know. Apparently, a power pole is now the regulating force behind where you put your sign or you can't put your sign. And ours apparently were a little bit in front of the power pole. Of course, now the power poles vary throughout the town. I'm sure you all know that. Ours just happens to be maybe a little further in our yard. Have a friend whose power pole is in the backyard. Now, she would not be able to display signs. You know, I find this kind of a waste of time. We're almost, less than 30 days away from the election, and our signs have been up probably since April. Now, the last time I addressed this, it was because I was told the signs made the town look tacky. Well, you know, that's a definition that depends on how you feel about your candidate. I don't think it makes our yard look tacky, and we enjoy our First Amendment right of being able to put our signs out. Now, I did call Manager Day, and he was nice enough to call me back, but back and forth, he's been out or I've been out, we've missed each other. So with that being said, I would like for you to look that ordinance or whatever has been placed on our political signs. I'd like you to look over and maybe rethink it. I do have an issue, though, that is worth talking about. And I heard most of you at the forum before you were elected talking about how important it is to protect our children. Well, now that is a good place for our resource officers. The town had one resource officer that you were paying to be in the schools previously. And then someone wrote a nice grant and you got the second resource officer, which would have covered our 3 schools. However, the second officer was taken off the school calendar and put on the road or wherever. And so now we still only have one resource officer covering 2 schools, the middle school and the high school. Now, both of those, I don't have to tell you, are schools where you can have serious problems. Of course, you can have serious problems in any school. But the distance between the high school and the middle school is quite a bit of time. If there's a problem at one and the resource officer is at the other. So it is just not a good plan. We need a resource officer in all of those schools. We don't want problems, but if we have problems, we want to solve them in seconds or minutes, not 15 or 20 minutes, and I think you will agree with that. So my real request is that you reconsider your resource officers in your schools and that we have one in all of the Tazewell schools. Guns and knives will break their bones, but signs will never hurt them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd, I have a question on that she brought up about the political signs. Isn't it that it's allowed as long as it's not in a right-of-way? Could there be a right-of-way for that pole?
What happened about 3 years ago, there was a federal case that took place in another state. And it has impacted not only Virginia, but the United States. Matter of fact, we were talking yesterday on Bluefield. They actually had a public hearing tonight over the exact same issue, but because of that, I don't have any state or federal guidelines to mandate not only campaign signs, but for sale signs, any kind of signs that are out there. And I sent an email out last year, I know I sent one out recently to inform council of that view and what we were going to do with it. So I'll get phone calls from candidates at this time of the year, every 2 years. It's like clockwork. Such and such has got a sign. Can you go get it? Such and such has got a sign. And last week alone, I probably got a dozen phone calls. So you'll have these candidates that are, well, it's on your right of way. Y'all supporting that candidate? Is that what y'all want to do? So what we do is we do our best to try to manage it. And we, from time to time, will make a bad decision on where that property line is. We use GIS and sometimes it's up. And, that may have been a situation there, and I apologize for that. And I'm not saying it was or it wasn't, but so we do the best we can to try to manage it. But we take all signs that we can find. And you're probably saying, well, you're missing a lot. I agree, we probably are. But we try to take them off the right away.
Now, Mr. Day, I can show you a picture of one that you have missed that is as far as from here to there from the pole.
Yeah, it's a problem.
And it's a very, very, very prominent one. Now, mine are not prominent any longer because the bridge has been taken out. So we're the only ones that see it. But now this is prominent because it's going around the road
10-foot distance where the line goes, so they have the ability to maintain those lines. But
The state gave, that was 460. I do know the history of that a long time ago. It was given to the town. And it varies greatly. Like some of the highway, some of the town's property is right against the sidewalk.
right,
Ours happens to be quite a bit back. And of course, the negative comments that you're going to get from this is, well, is the town going to come and mow their part of the grass?
Right.
Is the town going to come and clear the snow on their part? Are they going to take some money off my taxes because that belongs to them and not me? So to me, it is just a negativity thing that I don't think it has any upside to it. Now, I'm not as angry as I was when I was told my signs were tacky, but I'm still not happy. And really, if we hadn't seen the officer, we wouldn't have known who took our signs.
right.
And, I understand they're stored up here somewhere, but they didn't get ours, so we're good.
I don't understand why they decided to take it down now. It's election month. Since April?
I'm as interested in resource officer.
Yes.
That's a good,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
good.
we need-
Where do we stand with that?
There's grants out there for resource officers, and what we do every year is look at the budget. The grants also will stipulate that you have to have that officer, even if you don't get the grant the next year, you have to have them for 3 consecutive years. So what we do is we try to put them all out there in the schools, and Chief Mills is, not here tonight, he can speak more about it, but I do know that we try to do that. We try to do that as much as we can. When those grants come out, we always try to go for them.
Do we have to?
If I said yes, one
No,
of
you
them might
have-
have,
You have one.
okay.
You have one that the county, I think, is providing. But you have one that the town is providing. And the one the town is providing is half a day at the middle school and half a day at the high school.
Is that Ben?
Josie's.
Joe. And then the
Okay,
county
so
one
that's
goes,
got
the county guy
right?
is, he goes to all of it, not just Tazewell though, right? He goes.
What's that?
The county one goes over, he goes to Richlands too. I'm-
Oh, no, we now have an officer in every school, at least 3 days a week, I'm right? But we are now in the process, we have the money of having an officer in every school. The town of Tazewell is deficient. It is the deficient one in having them move around. The other officers are not moving around.
Are you certain of that?
Yes.
I was in Richlands Elementary School today.
Richlands Elementary School has a young lady in training now that will be theirs, and the money has been appropriated for her salary. That was at the last Board of Supervisors meeting. So there will be, Richlands Elementary will have, that's been taken care of now, they will have an officer.
They're the biggest.
And the middle school and high school, Richlands already has one.
If we could get Dave to give us the Chief Mills to give us the lowdown on that.
I know he's working with Brian Hyatt, and
Yeah, because where does Glenn King go?
I'm not sure.
He goes all around.
He goes to all the schools,
Yes, he makes a visit.
Is he a county?
He's a dare officer.
He's a dare officer.
There,
Dare officer.
that's what it is. Okay.
So his funding is separate, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's separate.
We got dare officer, we got resource officer.
It's separate.
Right, I mean, yeah. He's county.
Yeah, all county.
So you got, okay, can I get a motion to, for the normal meeting and from the executive session?
So, Mr. Mayor, I had a couple of questions. I was late and I didn't get a chance to put my name on the agenda. May I approach the council, please? Is that possible? I apologize. I know it's late and everybody's had a long day. My name's Dave Blankenship. I live at 281 Peakwood Drive. I would just like whatever the council has in terms of an update on the two ongoing sports projects. Indoor sports complex, Little League complex, Do we have, one, a total number for either or both? And two, who's going to pay for that total number? Do we have any of that information currently?
I can answer a little bit of it. We met, well, I didn't, I was in Roanoke, but I think Ben met with,
I was there, that's true.
okay, so you're aware of it.
Yes,
We
sir.
haven't totaled up those values yet. I don't know what the cost of it is. The county, well, our supervisor is very much aware that we're going to apply for the CPROP grant that's out there that the CPPD is now handling to help with Lincolnshire. So we are going after grants for that. I'm negotiating presently with CNX on that property, and I'm also on the agenda for October the 14th for the school board to look at that property.
Okay.
So not a whole lot of actions taking place. The IDA is working on that contract. It may be for several months, 6 months, 7 months, I'm not sure. So we're moving forward and absolutely keep it updated.
Right. And the CNX property is actually the reason that I came to talk to you about this or ask the question. Unfortunately, CNX is kind of like everywhere else. The topography is not great. And so engineering excavation costs, and I'm just curious, are those private funds that we're going to be putting into engineering and excavation costs that are going to be brought to us by an investor, or are these tax dollars that we're putting into that?
Contractually, the way it's written up right now is others will pay for it. So I will do my best to try to get canceled to make a contribution, just like we always have with Little League and anything that they ever do. And we'll just have to evaluate that. But contractually, the IDA is going to run that operation right now, but they're still negotiating, so they may change that contract altogether, which was the intent. But it won't be tax dollars, so it may not become a reality. I can tell you that there's been a multitude of foundations that have contacted me that are anxious about jumping in to make that
That's
reality.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome. We like foundations.
I've got entities contacting me all the way from Richmond to CPPD. So it's very, very, very much being looked at heavily. But I will appreciate, and I'll
Thank
keep
you for your update.
So, can I get a motion to enter executive session? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right.